disconnected from us on Zoom, you can also join us on the Facebook page that we have at DPAC. It's Diabetes PAC. But we're seeing that folks are still trickling in, so we're going to give it just another moment before we officially get started here. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday and a great end of their week. We are going to be talking to you guys today about advocacy and how to get involved, how to talk to your legislator. We've got a really great firsthand example of that with a lawmaker joining us as well as an advocate to share some personal stories. So here are our slides, and here we'll go ahead and begin the presentation. Thanks to those who are still filtering in for being patient with us. Okay, next slide, please. So today is called a brown bag, and we are going to just talk about something with you guys for half an hour. If you want to eat your lunch with us, some of us will be snacking, and it's just a chance for us to come together as a community, talk to one another about some of the key topics in diabetes advocacy. And the cool thing about today's topic is it is just that. We are an organization, if you're joining DPAC for the first time, we're an organization that really helps folks who have any sort of diabetes connection to be able to advocate for themselves, their family members, their friends. And DPAC started because it's really challenging to understand the government process, from an outside perspective. It's busy. It's a lot going on at once. There are bills that are hundreds of pages long. You hear competing messages. And so how do you get involved? So DPAC began as a way to tell advocates sort of what's happening, when it's happening, when their voices are needed, and really encouraged when something good is happening, when something bad is happening. So we send out action alerts. We have events like today where we help folks just to understand what some of the key issues are. We also have Hill Days where we have advocates actually come to Washington, D.C. with us in person or join us virtually for meetings with members of Congress. And that usually happens sometime around the fall. So stay tuned for that. But suffice to say, we go into states, we do state advocacy forums, we do events like today. So if you see down at the bottom of this slide, you can follow us on social media, subscribe to our email alerts just to understand when there are opportunities to join us and be with us. Next slide, please. So just quickly, what do we mean when we say advocate? Advocate is somebody who wants to support something publicly in the decision-making process. There really is not a right way to do this. Sometimes it means calling legislative offices. Sometimes it means talking to staff in DC. Other times it means sending letters and signing on to petitions, or perhaps even just using your social media to share more about an issue. There are so many ways to do advocacy, and it is not a one-time thing. Once you kind of catch the bug, you keep doing it, as you'll hear from our panelists later on. And just one exciting note, advocacy is best done in a community. It really is helpful to have so many voices joining the chorus when we do advocate. And so today we're going to have breakout sessions, which is a chance for you to get to know some of your fellow diabetes patient advocates, some of whom may have been doing advocacy for years, others of whom it may be something that they're really interested in getting involved with, and that's why they joined today. So if you would like to join us after, this is supposed to end somewhere around the 1:30 time frame if you're on Eastern time. We'll stick around for 15 or 20 minutes or until the top of the hour, just as your group would like. And we will proactively assign you to a breakout session. So I'll speak more about that at the end if you're interested, but just something to note for your schedules as we're starting off here. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So I'm going to introduce Stuart Perry, who is going to lead our panel for today, which we're very excited to host some high caliber women. Stuart is a lifelong advocate for people with diabetes. He has type 2 diabetes, and he has family members with both types of diabetes, including a son with type 1. He is an incredible champion for this community. He's past chair of the American Diabetes Association. He's done so many things. It would take me a long time to tell you his whole biography, but if you've joined us before, you know Stuart is also very direct. He can be like an anger translator when we are explaining common sense issues and things like that to this audience and to lawmakers. So he is such an asset to our community, and I'm really excited to have him leading today's panel. Stuart, if you would go ahead and like to join us. we
Well, Julie, I have been desperately trying to join you. I don't know what's going on, but I'm having technical difficulties. So hopefully you can hear me and we can get this done.
I can hear you. You're all set.
Okay. Julie did a great job introducing me. The only time that I get introduced better is if I do it myself. Senator Hicks, did you cure your audio problems?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you. Kim, I cannot see you. I'm assuming you're there.
I am. Thank you, Stuart.
There you go. Okay, great. Okay, I know both of these ladies very well. So if we kind of talk like we know each other, I think you'll understand. Let's start, Kim, with you. You and I go way back in diabetes advocacy. So what motivated you to reach out to your legislator the very first time?
Excellent. Great question, Stuart. And thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's great to be on here with Senator Hicks from our state of Oklahoma. And the question, how did I reach out, or why did I want to reach out to our first legislator? It happened 25 years ago, approximately, when I was reading an article. Megan had been diagnosed with diabetes 10 years prior to that. I certainly was advocating already on her behalf through the sharing the onset symptoms of her diabetes with family and friends, sharing and writing out actual plans for school, because that was pre-Safe at School. And so being a volunteer at school in the classroom as well as nursing office, I felt like I was advocating already, but not on a larger scale. And so when I read an article in a magazine that was back in the late 90s, pre-social media, and it said, ask or what make diabetes a national priority, was the headline. And I thought to myself, you mean diabetes is not already on the map? It's not a national priority. What's with that? It's a priority for our family. And so it, my goodness, if not us, who? And if not now, when would we be able to share our voice? It is so empowering to share the story and reach out to our legislators. And actually, we reached out further than our state legislators. We actually, Megan wrote a personal letter to the branch, the executive branch, and at that time, President Clinton. So her personal letter went to the White House. We gathered petitions, and off to Washington, D.C. we traveled to meet with then Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, as well as our state senators and congressmen.
And I seem to remember that some of those meetings were not as nice as you had hoped they were going to be.
They were certainly eye-opening. That's very true. And I think it's important to have your story and think through what it is that you want to share and part with people about diabetes. And so that's really the key, is learning that 30-second connection, that elevator speech as to what living with diabetes daily is, because you'll get all sorts of comments and questions from, oh my, you don't look like you have diabetes. Or the question, well, what do you want me to do about it?
Right. That's exactly correct. So, Senator Hicks, I've enjoyed our meetings and discussions, and you have shared with me some of your story, but could you share with me why you ran for office and what your first advocacy experience, how that advocacy experience helped you prepare to go into office and represent those of us that have diabetes so well?
Yes. So our son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 17 months old. We do not have a family history of diabetes. And so as we were kind of now what we know are the traditional symptoms and warning signs, as we were experiencing those, we went to our pediatrician. We sought help from the medical experts that were entrusted with keeping our sweet boy healthy. And it was a real struggle. Let's just say he was within about 30 minutes of losing his life by the time we finally got the answer and the diagnosis that it was type 1 diabetes. So we spent nearly a week in the pediatric intensive care unit in Oklahoma City, and had incredible medical care and professionals that took care of us and really taught us how to take care of this new diagnosis for our 17-month-old baby. That experience was truly eye-opening, and knowing that, you know, my husband and I are both really educated. We have 3 master's degrees between the two of us. We had health insurance. We had great health insurance and the support from our family and resources to be able to come out on the positive end of that diagnosis. But it really was those 3 things that made the difference between losing our child at that critical point. And so we were also compelled to action, just like Kim shared with her story, to want to make a bigger difference in how folks, especially those doctors, understand how to take care of little ones. The fastest growing demographic for type 1 diabetes is ages 0 to 5. And so we really wanted to make sure that pediatricians and those healthcare professionals are doing a $7 finger stick to make sure that they're not missing something in those early stages. And so as a classroom teacher, classroom kind of perspective, I guess, if you will, in making the decision to run for office, education was a top priority, but healthcare was tied for first place as far as what I was really wanting to do to serve our state at that state level, to be involved in the decisions, to making, you know, stories like ours have a more positive impact on the landscape. What could we do if I was elected to be able to shape state policy to really allow folks to thrive with a diagnosis of diabetes? And so we've been able to do several exciting things at the state level since I was elected in 2018, and we are not slowing down. We have a full legislative slate of priority bills this session from the Diabetes Caucus, and we're excited about the momentum and the coalitions that we're building in order to get some of those modifications through.
And you mentioned the Diabetes Caucus, Senator Hicks, and Kim, I know you're involved with the Diabetes Caucus in Oklahoma as well. It's unique in that it has both legislators and lay people like Kim and others from public health in it. And I get your emails every month on the Diabetes Caucus, Senator Hicks, so I know just how involved you are in that. So is it a nonpartisan caucus? Are you able to build nonpartisan support for bills and for diabetes issues within the state of Oklahoma?
It truly is nonpartisan, and I'm thankful for that. The caucus predates me in that it was put into statute many years before I even considered a run for office. And so I am thankful that Senator Frank Simpson, who unfortunately was term limited, was not able to run for office again, asked me to be his co-chair. He was a Republican from rural Oklahoma who lost a grandchild to complications relating to diabetes, and obviously had a very personal stake in wanting to make things better. And so being kind of invited into that discussion now as one of the co-chairs, I've invited Representative Dempsey, who is a Republican in southeastern real rural Oklahoma, who has a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. And so we're really able to come together again by having experts from across the state in various industries. So health insurance providers are there, endocrinologists, individuals and advocates who live with a diagnosis of diabetes are all invited. It's a public meeting. And so it really eliminates some of the political rhetoric around, what is possible when we truly just get together and look at the data.
So you would recommend other states form diabetes caucuses and use this as a nonpartisan way of helping to get diabetes bills passed. I'm speaking for you, Senator Hicks, but I'm sure you felt that you would feel very strongly about that statement.
Yes, and we just had our diabetes caucus meeting yesterday. We meet the first Thursday of the month, and so we were able to get an update. We have a diabetes report. It's part of the legislation that kind of stood up the diabetes caucus, and so every 3 years, the state health department and our healthcare authority, who's charged with our Sooner Care program and Medicaid, they release a report that gives us updated numbers and information as far as the prevention programs that we're also implementing for type 2 diabetes prevention. And so again, it is truly a time when we can come together and just look at the information and try to make the best decisions moving forward. So it's a strong recommendation for me in any state that does not have a diabetes caucus. It's been exceptional.
So thank you, Senator Hicks. And I always enjoy when you and I are able to sit and talk about your experiences in diabetes issue. Kim, I know you were there at the very first diabetes caucus meeting because I was there with you. And you and I spent time walking the halls in Oklahoma working on diabetes legislation. You talked about your federal experience. Can you talk about your experience from an advocacy angle a little bit in the state?
Absolutely. I appreciate the passage of Diabetes Action Plan, Senate Bill 250 here in Oklahoma, which out of that was formed the caucus, and we so appreciate the help that you did lead us for, Stuart, and so it's incredible that we've been able to do that here in our state. Moving forward, talking about is diabetes a partisan issue? Absolutely not. We know it's not discriminate on woman, child, man, the color of your skin, if you have 2 nickels in your bank account, or if you have 3 Swiss bank accounts. I think that's important to let our legislators know that diabetes is not only an issue and was 25 years ago, those numbers have since doubled. And the most recent numbers that I have, speaking to one of our fellow Oklahoma advocates, she was a school nurse in the Mustang School District, Tammy Kane. She's worked with us at DPAC in the past. And for instance, when Megan was in high school, she had 3 total students in the school with diabetes, herself and 2 other classmates. Today, Tammy just shared with me that in her high school alone, they have 28 diagnosed children with diabetes, and in the district, it's 47. So if that doesn't tell us that today's the time to raise our voice and advocate for people living with diabetes, I don't know what will.
So, Kim, I know you to be a tireless advocate, and not only you, but you got your mother and your sister and your whole family involved in this effort as a result of, and your sister is a large advocate for us in the state of Texas, if I'm not mistaken. So what would you recommend to fellow advocates? We've got hundreds of advocates on the call with us. So what would you recommend to them to do to bring people together to push forward on diabetes, whether it be legislation or resolutions or just trying to find help for people that need it?
Absolutely. It's multifold. First of all, reach out in your social media. It's something that's very easy to do, and share your story. Such as Senator Hicks shared as well. We had no diabetes in our family. Megan simply had the flu a month prior to her 3rd birthday and was diagnosed within weeks. It's important to continue sharing it with family and friends, and then outreach from there. And then when you are meeting with legislators, how important it is to just be your polite, kind self. Stuart, you were one that coined the phrase that it's always much easier to catch flies with honey than vinegar.
That's true.
And so since we know this is not a political issue, healthy people across our state and country and world should be of utmost importance to people, so that the Sawyers of this world, Senator Hicks and my Megan, can go out and be the most fully capable people giving back to society as we can. We know with technology, the research that has happened since our advocacy over the last 20 years was incredible. I mean, to think that we had finger sticks and ketone sticks was all we had in the 90s. And I know I'm speaking to the crowd, you all, even prior to that, for those living with diabetes much longer than Megan. But now with CGMs, oh my goodness, that is incredible. Building that relationship with lawmakers is so important. So they don't just see us coming in once a year asking for something with our hand held out. We should be offering the palm to our lawmakers and saying, where can we be a resource for you all? You may not have all the answers, but if they know you as a constituent, they can call on you and say, there was someone in here last week talking about diabetes. Who is that we need to connect with? That is important, because even if we don't know the answers, which by far, even with the, as long as we've dealt with diabetes, there's still unanswered questions. But thank the Lord for people such as you, Stuart, and everyone at DPAC, that we can reach out to you and you can help us with those answers and get back to our lawmakers. So building that bridge is very, very important. I think that's
Thank you,
really,
Kim.
yeah.
Senator Hicks, Kim has been an indefatigable advocate on behalf of diabetes. She doesn't know the term stop, and the term no only means to her, well, you don't agree with me now, but you will later. So not all advocates are like Kim. What's the best way for someone to advocate on an issue with a legislator? What would you recommend when you're talking to someone who might be just a little timid? That doesn't describe Kim or myself, but might be just a little timid about approaching a legislator. What would you say? What would you say to them?
I mean, the great news is that, and I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience in Oklahoma, but you know, the folks that serve, you know, they truly want to do good. We might have lots of philosophical differences on how we do that good, but by and large, folks run for office because they really want to do good for their community. So as Kim said, it's all about developing that relationship. Just remember, you are the expert of your own story. And by sharing just your daily challenges, the struggles, the stresses, I mean, it might not seem like all that much to you because you live it on a daily basis, but I can assure you, my colleagues, everyone that I come in contact with at the Capitol, I mean, they forget. They're like, oh, I forgot you do have a son with diabetes. And it's like, you know, I'm sorry, I'm running late to this meeting. We had a site fall out. I had to run to the school and do a quick site change. I mean, just all of those daily, you know, management tools that we all get comfortable with because we've had to overcome those adversities. We've had to overcome those obstacles. Folks who don't have close proximity to individuals living with diabetes forget how complicated and how challenging it can be. Or they want, you know, just the quick silver bullet. Well, what can we do this year to fix this, right? There is no easy fix. A lot of the challenges that we're working on legislatively, they take a long time to get done in order to make sure that everyone is truly represented in good policy. Some of the things that we've been successful at doing, you know, as far as insulin copay caps here in the state of Oklahoma, they only represent a fraction of the population that is living with a diagnosis of diabetes because we can only regulate certain health insurance plans from the state level. So again, just kind of going back to your individual story, if you happen to be on one of those health plans that's not covered underneath that insulin copay cap, it's incredibly important for you to reach out and say, it didn't help me, and here's why, and what can we do, and is there another way around to find a different solution, because supplies are expensive, insulin is expensive. It takes a lot of time to be able to make good decisions for our families. And so really elevating those challenges just on a, I mean, even just a basic human level, not complaining. I'm just trying to give you a better picture of what it looks like for a family like mine who's living with diabetes. I think those stories are incredibly powerful, and especially if they're coming from someone that they particularly represent. And so that's why the caucus has been instrumental in helping us do big changes, because we're able to pinpoint, oh, wait, I know someone, you know, out in so-and-so's district who's on this committee who's going to be voting on this piece of legislation. The broader network that you can stand up, the more compelling it is for more folks in the legislature to actually take action. So building those deep relationships goes a long way.
Well, Senator Hicks, thank you very much. As you can see, Julie has come on, which is the hook. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to piggyback on what Senator Hicks said too, which is the deep relationships. And that's what we have here today. That's why we selected you two as panelists, because as patient advocate, you know, Kim was able to reach out and create a relationship with a member of, you know, of her state legislature through this experience. And that you, Senator Hicks, would choose to advocate in an ultimate way by running for office, right? Given your own experience, and that you two share the, you know, the struggle and the scare, and also the passion of having a child with diabetes is just amazing that this relationship is formed. And it's such an example to our advocates of what's possible if you really do take the time to reach out to your lawmakers, get to know them, whether it's at the state level, whether it's, you know, staff at the congressional level, or even members of Congress. So thank you guys for being such an example and a demonstration of that as we move forward in this presentation. Thank you.
That was the close that I was supposed to give, but you notice Julie gave it much better than I could. All I can tell you, ladies, is both of you are very special to me, because you absolutely have been there every time I've reached out. So thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time in and make me look good as a moderator on this call. And to the hundreds of people that are out there, thank you for attending, because it's important. Julie, I'm going to leave it to you to close this out.
Great. We've got a couple more slides. I'm going to zoom through them, pun intended, as we wrap up here. But just quickly, you heard both Kim and Senator Hicks say that telling your story is so part of being an advocate. And so learning how to do that in an efficient way, in a way that is, you know, respectful, but strong in the process is really a key piece of this. And that's something too, that we can practice in these breakout sessions if you choose to stick around with us here in just a couple minutes. But next slide, please. And then obviously it gets easier the more that you do it. Kim wasn't a 5-star advocate probably the first time she reached out. Who knows, maybe with her, she's the exception, but it does take some time to get used to it. And so just being able to do it and do it consistently, and remembering that the change takes time. And so even if you've already said, oh, I've spoken up on that, well, your voice still continues to count, especially given that we, the people, the patients, are electing members of our legislature and our Congress. It really does matter, and they want to hear from us directly. Next slide, please. Okay, so, you know, just really how to be an advocate, what we call a DPAC champion, is first just making sure you're signed up with us, because we'll give you ways to do it and do it efficiently and easily, so that you don't have to, you know, devote your whole life to trying to read a single piece of legislation. We will help you. We will make it easy to participate in the system. Again, whether it's letters or petitions, whether it's coming to your state to host a forum and introducing you to your own lawmakers, whether it's in person or virtual Hill days. So please sign up, follow us on social media so that you're able to stay tuned for what's coming up. And lastly, I just want to talk through what is about to happen. So if you'd like to stay on, we are going to have you join us for just a brief breakout room. So it's the same kind of thing that you've probably done in the past on Zoom. We'll randomly assign you to a breakout session. You can unmute your microphone and turn on your camera. The chat feature won't work, the typing, but in order to engage, just make sure you're unmuted. We definitely love to have your camera on if we can, because this is one of the most important parts of advocacy. And what really makes it stick is getting to meet other patient advocates in this process, because we know it is a process and it's easier when we do it together. DPAC team members may pop in or pop out of your groups, but we encourage someone to just take the lead in your group. And really, we'll send a prompt to you, but it's pretty simple, just your name, your town, and your connection to diabetes. So once you go through that, if you'd like to share your own story, any advocacy experience you have, something you found powerful about today, great. But the most important thing is to just be able to introduce yourselves to each other. Again, name, town, and connection to diabetes. And that's also a chance just to briefly, share a piece of your story, which is good advocacy practice. You can, as long as your group wants to go, we'll have them stop at the top of the hour, but we, invite you to create a bond or a relationship with others in this experience. So we're going to go ahead and assign you to breakout rooms. It'll take a minute. So if you stick with us, we're going to take that as a sign that you want to join a breakout discussion. And so it will take just about a minute to assign everybody who sticks around. So just know that there will be a little bit of lag. But again, cameras on and mics on will be a great way to actually get to meet other folks in this process. And I think that is it. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're joining us from Facebook Live, thank you for watching. And we look forward to being able to let everybody who wants to stick around and form a little piece of this community. So thank you so much, and we will assign you shortly.